The time has finally, and I emphasize again, finally come for the 2014 NFL Draft. Let's hope if Roger Goodell tries to push this off on all of us again next year, or even tries to extend it even further into May, let's all revolt against him and bitch on the internet and accomplish nothing. Are we in agreement? I hope so. I hope so. So here we are, my final 2014 NFL mock draft. And originally I had anticipated doing 3 rounds or 4 rounds, but frankly got into a bit of a time crunch. So you're only getting 2 rounds, and I do apologize for that. I had promised you 3 or 4 rounds, but you're still at least getting 2. And I will say, if you look in the description box down below, you can check out my first 64 picks in this 2014 NFL draft, including a total of 8 trades in round number 1. I actually feel somewhat confident about this mock draft, in particular when I look at the top 10 picks and how I look at it all shaking out. I've got Clowney going number 1 to Houston, in large part because I don't think anybody is going to pay the outrageous RG3 type price that the Texans might be seeking for that number 1 overall pick, especially for a non-quarterback type of player. I've got Buffalo making a big move up to number 2 to get Greg Robinson. They need some offensive line help. They need to better protect E.J. Manuel in 2014. I've got Jacksonville playing it safe at number 3 with Khalil Mack. A bit of a surprise, I'm sure, at number 4, where I have Mike Evans going to Cleveland, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M, over Sammy Watkins. Look, there are some teams, I'm sure, I can guarantee it, that will rate Evans and his skill set and his size, his athleticism, higher on their board than Sammy Watkins, and I anticipate the Cleveland Browns could be one of them, envisioning him as a better complement to Josh Gordon than what a Sammy Watkins would be, which would be the impetus, in my opinion, for Detroit to desperately want to trade up from pick 10 to pick 5 to get Sammy Watkins, and the Raiders peeling back and doing a Raiders thing for sure. I've got Jake Matthews at 6 to Atlanta. Johnny Manziel. For a while here, I was penciling in Aaron Donald to Tampa Bay. At the end of the day, even though I know Lovey has to lovey him some Aaron Donald, I have a feeling the general manager and or ownership is going to overrule him, and they're going to end up going with Johnny Manziel, which will allow, unfortunately for me as a Bears fan, Aaron Donald to slide to number 8 to Minnesota. I've got Taylor Lewan going number 9, and then at number 10, I anticipate Oakland will want to trade back a little bit because at the end of the day, I believe that their guy might end up being Derek Carr, not David Carr. Ooh. Even though Derek might be another David. Derek Carr, the quarterback out of Fresno State. You'll look and you'll see I have a total of 4 quarterbacks going in round number 1. Manziel 7 to Tampa Bay. Derek Carr, number 10 to Oakland. Bortles sliding down to number 20 to the Arizona Cardinals. And then Teddy Bridgewater going 26th to the Cleveland Browns. You might look and you might say, wow, San Francisco would move that far up the board in order to get an Odell Beckham Jr. Look, the 49ers are well positioned with multiple second and third round picks to be able to make a big aggressive move very far up the board to get an impact player. And they need that impact player out of the slot in their passing game and as a returner as well. And Odell Beckham brings both of those to the table. I think for both parties involved, both for Tennessee, who needs to trade down, frankly, because they have needs all over the place, and they needs that they have can be addressed later on with value picks later in round 1 and then 2 and 3 and 4. I advocated for them, and I advocated for the San Francisco 49ers. They don't need a redshirt class of draft picks this year. They need 1 or 2 real standout impact players, and that's what an Odell Beckham could provide. My Bears, I've got going with Kyle Fuller, the cornerback out of Virginia Tech. I don't know how I feel about it, but I do like the player quite a bit. I see him, and he reminds me a little bit from his skill set, his size, speed, athleticism, physicality combination of a Peanut Tillman. And that might be what Phil Emery and the Chicago Bears envision. And with guys like Aaron Donald no longer being on the board, I could see them going with somebody like a Kyle Fuller. And I will say this, is I know the Chicago Bears will do something unconventional with their first round pick. They've done it the previous 2 years under Phil Emery. I wouldn't be surprised if it was somebody like Anthony Barr or so on and so forth. So again, you could look at my mock draft in the description box down below, the first 2 rounds. And what I want you to do is after round 1, see how I measure up against the guys like the Mel Kipers and the Todd McShays and the Mike Mayocks and all these different talking media heads, the Bucky Brookses, the Charles Davises, the Charlie Casserleys. Let's see how I stack up against them. I think it would be a damn shame and a tragedy and a huge ego boost to me personally if I did better than most, if not all of them, when it comes to how the first round plays out, either in terms of where a player gets drafted and or by what team that player gets drafted by, and some of these teams that might make moves up and down the draft board. I'll be curious to see. I know I'll be paying attention, but I know most importantly of all, I'm so excited and I'm so thankful that finally, mercifully, the 2014 NFL Draft is here. Make sure you go check out some of the other NFL Draft videos I've done in the previous weeks. Also keep in mind that I will be doing on this channel for Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night recaps of each of the days of the 2014 NFL Draft. I will be doing an NFL Draft recap podcast Saturday, May the, whatever the hell the day that is, I think May the 11th, 2014. So make sure you check that out. It'll be at 10 p.m. Eastern. That information will eventually be placed in the description box by me. And after the draft, I will be doing individual team grades for each of the 32 teams and their performances in the 2014 NFL Draft.